Mara arrived with a single trunk and a look that did not belong to fear. Snow dusted her hair as she stepped down from the wagon, eyes lifting to the peaks as if greeting old friends. Elias noticed small things first, the way she thanked the driver twice, the way her boots were mended carefully, the way she took in the cabin without flinching. She was young, yes, but not fragile. There was a steadiness in her shoulders that unsettled him more than any storm ever had. He offered a nod instead of words. That was his way. She answered with a smile that didn't ask for permission. Inside, the cabin smelled of pine resin and iron. Elias set her trunk by the wall and gestured to the hearth, already warm. It's plain, he said, because he felt he should say something. Cold comes early. I like plain, Mara replied, rubbing her hands together. It leaves room for better things. He didn't know what that meant. He didn't ask. The days that followed were exactly what Elias had promised himself they would be, quiet, useful, contained. He rose before dawn, checked traps, split wood. Mara learned the rhythms without being told. She didn't complain about the cold water or the long stretches of solitude. She hummed sometimes while sweeping, a soft sound that slipped between the beams and stayed there. Elias found himself lingering at the door longer than necessary, listening. At night, they shared the table but not much else. He kept his chair angled away, a habit formed by years of living alone. Mara didn't push. She spoke of small things. The way snow fell differently here than in the valley, how bread tasted better when baked slow, how mountains made people honest because there was nowhere to hide. Elias listened, surprised by how her words filled spaces he had stopped noticing were empty. One evening, a storm rolled in faster than expected. Wind rattled the shutters, the fire hissed and snapped. Elias barred the door and turned to find Mara standing close, her face pale but calm. Without thinking, he reached out, steadying her as the cabin shuddered. The contact was brief, calloused hand to wool sleeve, but it felt like crossing a line he hadn't known existed. "Thank you," she said quietly, meeting his eyes. He nodded and stepped back, heart thudding like a trapped bird. That night, sleep came slowly. He lay awake listening to the storm and to the softer sounds from the other room, pages turning, a breath settling into rest. He realized, with a strange ache, that the cabin no longer felt like a shelter he endured but a place that held something fragile and worth protecting. Weeks passed. Mara planted herbs in tin cans by the window, coaxing green from the cold. She laughed once, really laughed, when Elias tracked Snow through the kitchen, and the sound startled him into smiling before he could stop himself. She noticed, of course, and didn't tease. She only smiled back, as if they had shared a secret. Elias had expected a loveless arrangement, a life unchanged. Instead, the mountains seemed closer, the air warmer. He began to understand that forever didn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it came quietly, on borrowed light, carried in by a young bride who treated a lonely man like a beginning instead of an ending.